Welcome to Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped to get off. And so is a gentleman that is my guest this week. He is a content creator, a porn star, an author from Philadelphia, hailing all the way from Philadelphia, PA, representing Philadelphia. Venom, how are you?
I am excited. I am here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It took us a while to get here.
Yes. It did. Yes. But we're here.
Yeah.
I woke up and I looked outside. Actually, I went out for a second and it's like, today is a cold day, but a beautiful day.
Yeah. It's absolutely gorgeous. When I was driving in, it was a good feeling.
So I like to grab onto those moments.
Yeah. So here we are. I met you not too long ago. First of all, I heard about you through Benny Blazing. You've been in the industry just as long as I have.
Yes.
Except we've been kind of on parallel paths, right? So I kind of want to get there, but really quick, just to give the viewers and the listeners an introduction. I met you in Philly. We did a scene for Treasure Island, and it was an awesome scene.
Yes, it was.
To the point where I was like, oh God, why did I meet you now? Let's do a couple more scenes.
Right.
Yesterday you did a solo. You also did a scene with Nude Botanist, which was one of the best scenes I've done.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, yesterday was a great day all around. I
I'm
shot
glad to hear that.
3 scenes, and they were fucking awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, and
Well,
you were
I was there for 2 of them, so I know they were awesome.
Yeah. Before we get into like you growing up and stuff, let's talk a little bit about your career in porn. Okay. So when exactly did that happen?
So it started the fall leading to the winter of 2005.
Okay.
That's how long I've been doing this. And I stumbled upon it. I didn't think that it would be a career. I thought it'd be like one of those one-off situations. And then I got another call and another call. And before you know it, it's the Venom popping up. So it was fun. It was a new experience as I was so young. And it actually helped to shape my life in a lot of different ways. I learned so much about myself because of me entering into the porn industry so early on. And it's not like it is today where the content creators still were companies. And I think maybe VHS were still like around barely, but everything was DVD.
Everything was DVD.
There was there were some sites, but everything was DVD.
Yeah.
So that shaped the way I approach business as a entertainer. And now it helps me with what I'm doing now.
You got in 2005, so that's 2 years. You've been in it longer than I have, so that's 2 years before me. Did you grow up in Philadelphia?
I did.
Okay.
My entire childhood was here not here because we're not in Philly, but it was in Philadelphia. And once I got into the industry, I learned that there was more to this world than just Philadelphia.
What was growing up in Philadelphia like?
For me, it was fun and agonizing. I was an outcast. I was the unpopular kid.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So
and why?
I was different. I was weird. I grew up in church. So in all of my interactions at school, out and play with other kids, either I was too rough or I was preaching to people. And
really,
nobody wanted to be. I'm freaking 13 preaching to people. Who wants that? Like, I'm still a kid. I shouldn't be worrying about like live holy or die and go to hell.
Yeah.
So it was agonizing on that level. I didn't have many friends.
Did you find? I love this. There's a correlation with like religion and church and porn, and it's like Disney almost. Everybody that starts out with Disney ends up being like Britney Spears.
Yeah,
take their clothes off.
That's funny, and I think that's true as well.
Were you out in school or at church? What was that experience?
No, I didn't realize that I was gay until after I was like 18, 19 years old.
Oh, okay.
So it didn't click or connect when people would say, "Oh, he's soft," or "He's a sissy," or "He's," because in my mind, I look at a female like, "Oh my gosh, I want that," but I can look back and see moments where, "Oh, Kevin, that was gay as fuck." So I have a mixture of experiences that I didn't even identify as being gay. So it was childhood was interesting. 18, 19, exploring. 2 years later, I'm a porn star. So
a lot of exploring in those 2 years.
A whole lot.
Did you? But growing up, you didn't. Did you have attraction to other guys? Like when you saw them, and
I think I did, but I didn't acknowledge it.
Okay.
Like that teacher that comes in and everyone's looking like, "Oh my gosh, look at him." It was more of an admiration than an attraction, or that's how I identified it at first. So it was that teacher that, he's handsome, or I love the way he dresses. Or there were other guys in the class that I just wanted to be around so much and couldn't understand why.
Okay. Do you think that had anything to do with the church? Only because I've spoken about it before, and how are you religious now? Can
I don't like to use the word religious. I say I'm more spiritual.
Okay, so
because
you're
I don't
spiritual.
necessarily subscribe to a religion at this point.
Okay, so I'm not bad mouthing. I'm just criticizing constructively.
Yeah, we can do that. I probably would do it in a not so positive way. So let's go.
I just there's a lot of or repressed issues in church, and we see it all the time with priests, scandals and all that stuff. And I feel like they really do badmouth homosexuality and LGBT issues and stuff. So I'm always curious if you grew up in a religious background or a spiritual background, one always sticks out as being a little more anti-fun. So I'm curious if that had any effect on, or if you think that had any effect on maybe, okay, well, I'm not thinking about men in this way because, it's not right with the church, or it's not right with...
I definitely know for a fact that it was suppressed. Funny story, not in the book, which we'll get to. When I was younger, my mom had one of her best friends had a son around my age. And, kind of like when school time and kids have to go to the bathroom, we all line up and you send 3 in or whatever. So an older cousin of mine would typically walk us to the bathroom, and it'd be both of us at the same time going to the bathroom. And after we get finished doing our little tinkle, we start playing with each other. And it was so young and innocent. And I got punished for that. Obviously, don't do that. Men don't play with men, or boys don't play with boys. So it was like, okay, let's suppress this. I don't even know that it was directly from the church for me back then. It was more family saying no.
Okay.
But where did they get it from?
Well, that's another thing I usually talk about too. And I did an interview at Cali in 2020. Well, actually, was it 2020? I think it was 2020. And we spoke about family and predominantly how black families, black and Latin, a lot of them are usually religious, but are very anti-homosexual, like any kind of gay.
Yeah, I think religion teaches you that. So I was a preacher, so I studied the Bible. Again, at 13, I wasn't just like acting like I was preaching. No, I was legitimately preaching to people
out there
at 13, like Bible studies, teaching Bible studies and Sunday school classes and things like that. So because of that experience, I was able to like get more of an understanding of like church, the Bible, spirituality. And I think that a lot of the effects that the Black Latino families like they hold on to or they revere are sometimes not the best practices, but in the name of religion, they follow things and don't even understand why they're following it. They don't take the time to actually break down what the scripture is. And this is not going to be a preachy interview, I promise.
Don't worry.
But
preach on.
But they don't take the time to actually understand the dispensation in which this context was written. The group of people that were being spoken to and why they were being spoken to. It wasn't something that was, and who's writing this right now? Is this really God's words to men, or is this men's words about their experience of God? And that's the difference. And that's why I say I'm more spiritual than religious, because people take men's experience and they make it fact.
I always think of that one gay man in like 40 AD that was like, "Oh, you're cute," to one of the guys writing the Bible, and that guy's like, "That son of a bitch." And he started writing anti-gay shit in the Bible.
Exactly. That's exactly where I think, like, even down to Moses and the 10 Commandments. Like, that man was high. He was up in the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and he saw a burning bush, and he heard the voice of God. Oh, I hear the voice of God when I'm smoking. I gave my mom edibles, and she's like, "Oh, my gosh, I heard God so clearly." Yep, that man was high.
Well, see, I always, this is another thing that and I swear to God, we'll talk about porn. No pun. I swear to God, we'll talk about porn, and we'll talk about your book and your experience.
Okay.
But this is part of your experience.
It is.
And I'm sharing my experience with you too. I think that we are too quick to, have you ever heard somebody say, "I don't know how I would have gotten through this if God wasn't there to help me"?
Yes.
I think we're too quick to say to ourselves, "Someone needs to help me," when in reality, you are all the help that you are.
That is my message. quickly, there was a moment in my life around my self-discovery of like accepting that I was gay. Church traumas, grandmother passing away, immediate family moving from Philadelphia to Cincinnati. I was in a space of isolation, and I didn't graduate from high school. I dropped out, and I went to Job Corps to get my GED and to pick up a trade. And at that point, I didn't have the support of my family. It was pretty much just me, and I was a part of this oratory competition where I was just on public speaking, and I got to the finals, which was on a national level, and the speech that I was writing was No One But Me. And the beginning of the speech just talks about how I had to apply to school for myself, find work for myself at this very young age, support myself, and I really had no one but me. But at the end of the day, I realized that having me was more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my message, and it's like a takeaway. So much of my early childhood and early adulthood was about pleasing other people, or feeling like if I didn't have a partner, I wasn't enough. If my mom wasn't by my side to support me, so if she said she wouldn't support me, I wouldn't be enough. In church, it's like one of the scriptures is, your righteousness is as filthy rags. So all of sin and fall short of the glory of God. It's like nothing that I do within myself is good enough, and I had to find that space to say, you know what? Whether I did porn or if I was still preaching, I'm enough, and I'm allowed to live in that and be okay to accept that without someone saying, oh, you're being braggadocious or you're being haughty or arrogant. No, I'm not. I'm a very humble person. But I think we need to create space for ourselves to be able to appreciate and celebrate ourselves.
Which not a lot of people do.
Right.
In the hardest times. I feel like if people realize how much they are capable of doing,
Yes.
God only knows what the limit is.
There is none.
And I'll use
There are
that
none.
word at that point. God only, or that phrase, God only knows, because we are God.
Yes.
We
We
are
gotta
all
continue
our
conversations
we are
once
all
we're
our
done.
gods, you know?
Yes. Yes.
That I learned from Buddhism, actually, and from yoga. I've been practicing yoga for like 15, 16 years at this point. And we always end class with the light in me honors the light in you. And the light is like everything that you are, you know? So, shit.
That's awesome. Like I said, after this, we got to continue our
Yeah,
conversation.
fuck
That's great. That is great.
So, okay, so you grew up religious. You grew up in Philly. What was it like? Okay, you said a little bit about growing up in high school, and you were not the popular kid.
Mm-hmm.
Were you teased? Did people know? You said sometimes they called you sissy and stuff,
Yeah.
but is that as bad as it got, or?
No, because it was like most of the teasing came from home.
Okay.
My siblings.
Oh, wow, okay.
They I have this middle child syndrome thing. That's a real thing. I don't care what nobody says.
Yeah.
But at home, I'd be teased. And it just was like, okay, maybe I can go to school and nope, I got teased at school. I think church was that safe haven, but then it started happening at church with the other kids at church too. I was just a square.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't fit in anywhere.
So in your moments of discovery, which happened from 19 to 21 before you got into the porn industry, what was that leap? What was that final point where you were like, you know what, I think I can do this?
It didn't happen till after the porn.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because again, being an oddball, not being as popular, I gained friends 17 through 19, but it wasn't until I started to realize, like, I remember the first time someone stopped me for my autograph. I'm here in New York getting ready to jump on the train, and I'm with another guy who did porn longer than I have, and this guy runs across the street, Venom, please, can I get your autograph? Okay. And then I started to realize more of my worth. It kind of like got shot in the foot because it was more superficial than like actually Kevin. But it was the start, at least, to like self-realization, like I'm actually worth something, or I got something good here.
So you are now in porn. You've been working with studios. What studios did you work with, and how was your experience with studio work in the mid 2000s and late 2000s?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the beginning of it was like, you remember the era of Coco Dorm, like when they really started to become a thing. There was another dorm called Freak Dorm, which was a subsidiary underneath Chocolate Cream that also worked with Thugzilla and also worked with Dog Pound. So it was fun, it was interesting, it was sleazy, it was dirty, but it was a good start for me, I think, because there was a group of us, and out of the group of us, two guys actually from Philadelphia actually made a name for ourselves. Myself and Remy, actually, Remy Memoirs.
Okay.
We were part of the same group of guys who were just making these like dorm style videos,
Mm-hmm.
which led to us branching out, getting calls by Dog Pound. For me, it was Latino Connection at first with Marvin Jones, the late Marvin Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And he eventually stepped from underneath his distributor and created his own company, Chocolate Cream. And I think that gave me the biggest push as a launch in this industry. I didn't know how big it was. And because he left his distributor, I would be here in New York and Marvin would go down to the village and stop at every sex store and make sure that his DVDs was on the racks.
It's a good businessman.
Yeah, I mean, that was his business. He'd get up in the morning, do whatever he needed to do on his computer, and then, like, for the rest of the afternoon, stop after stop after stop. Marvin's coming in. Let's make sure we got space for him. That's the way he ran his business. So I got to see a lot of the business side of things first, and he kind of like taught me how to be Venom, which is another thing that we'll get to because I had to rediscover who Venom was versus what I was taught. And then because of Chocolate Cream, I don't know how many people know this, but the owner of Chocolate Cream is brothers with one of the producers of Dog Pound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're like legitimately brothers. So
Oh.
he put me in contact with his brother, and I built a great connection with them and relationship. Like, even still today, like, we don't work together anymore, but like, I could always reach out to them. They reach out to me just to say hey or whatever the case may be. So from there, it was like I was just everywhere. Everybody's like, oh, Venom, let's get him here. Let's get him here. Which that did a lot for my self-esteem, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Did you know Black Breeders? Did you know Forbidden Funk?
I knew of them.
Okay.
So my career is really interesting because I was able to get a lot of success, a lot of attention, and I did make a good bit of money doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like in a bubble. There was so many other opportunities that I didn't even know were there. I didn't approach porn to make a career. I approached it because it was something to do in the moment. It was good money when I first started it. So it was like, there's more to this. We were talking about the awards. I didn't even know that porn stars get awards. I didn't know, wait, what is this? So it's like a whole new world beginning to open it up. And again, seeing Marvin go from store to store, I didn't see how big it actually was. Like, that was just New York. His stuff is all over the place.
All over the place.
And that was just him with DVDs in the early to mid 2000s. So once I broke into the internet, it's like, whoa.
What was that experience like?
It was weird because I would get wind of different type of interactions or correspondence from fans and other producers through the companies that I was working with. It wasn't direct. Every now and again, someone would find a way to reach me. Back then, it was MySpace.
I'm familiar with MySpace.
So yeah, I would get messages on MySpace. I think that's when I started to connect and realize that there was way more. Like, this is bigger than what I thought it was. Or going to church and seeing people like,
No, really.
I did a praise dance at this church one night, and at the end, the musician came down. There's always those musicians, but came down from the musician stand. We're outside at this point, and he's like, "Yo, I love your work." And I'm like, that look on your face is not talking about my praise dance. So I think when I started to get recognized in the oddest places, that's when I realized, like, hey, this is bigger than what I thought it was. That's when it actually hit me.
That you weren't going to be able to escape it.
Yeah. Well, I thought I was.
Yeah.
I really thought I was. But again, people have a way of telling you, like, no, that's not your reality.
Bringing you back.
Bringing me back to reality. The interesting thing in my story and in my life is because I grew up so religious and spiritual, and I'm exploring this new sexual side of myself, I never thought to separate them. I never thought that, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be on YouTube singing gospel songs, like half naked.
Really?
I deleted that YouTube so long ago. I had so much great content on there, but the comments started to come in, and most of the comments were like, wait, ain't that gay porn star? Oh, he got a big dick. But I'm singing Blessed Assurance. I'm like, okay, this don't add up. And other people was like, yeah, sorry, this don't add up. Make up your mind, one or the other. And I thought that I had to make up my mind. I had to choose if I was going to be saved or if I was going to be sexual. And that was the biggest conflict for me for a long time. And I think it leads to me coming to rediscovering and reinventing who Venom is.
So who is Venom?
Venom is a verse god. Venom is a businessman. Venom is I was told not to use the word deviant, but he's sexually curious. I've had friends tell me I need to take Venom and put him into Kevin's situations to handle for Kevin because I'm soft spoken. I'm timid in situations. I've allowed situations to slip through my fingers because I wasn't as aggressive as Venom is. So Venom, if there was a comparison, Venom would be my Sasha Fierce.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Venom,
see what you mean. Your alter ego.
Yeah, my alter
Okay.
ego. That's a great way to put it.
Your
Yeah.
sexual alter ego.
Exactly.
I think they can exist at the same time.
Yes.
And they
They
do.
do.
They do. I'm learning to discover that too, more than not. I started off doing these interviews with glasses on and all that shit because, I doing documentaries and short films and all that stuff on the side, and I kind of like you, I didn't look at this as a career.
Right.
Although it's been the most rewarding so far. Granted, I'm sure a change could be anywhere in the future. I'm still young enough to go into something else.
Mm-hmm.
But this has been a large part of my life, my adult life. So I felt the same way. I didn't want both of them. I remember at one point in like 2007, I was working on a children's TV show.
Wow.
And I had just gotten this job.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I can't let people know these two things, but
see, that's what we're taught. And it's not even just a religious thing. I just think society in general teaches us that you have to be sexual secretly and pursue everything else, but don't let the world catch wind that you actually have sex. Which is why I kind of appreciate where the sex industry is today, because everybody's doing it. It leaves less room. It's still space for judgment and things like that, but it leaves less room for that because more people are embracing sexuality, whether it be your sexual identity, your gender identity. Like, it's so in your face now that it's a lot more acceptable. And you learn that I can work at a firm and still do my thing on the side. And for you, this is like how do I want to put this? This is a primary job for you.
Mm-hmm.
You can still do other things. I'm actually impressed and like intrigued about your documentary and filmmaking.
Oh yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'll show you all that stuff later.
But like, do you split yourself to do this, to do that? It's like 9 to 5 at work. I clock out, and I'm Kevin after I clock out.
Yeah, I was doing that for a while. I was doing that all through like 2013, 2014, and then I just started. The thing is when you're an independent filmmaker, you need funds.
Yeah.
And a lot of my projects were funded by working for porn companies.
That part.
No one has to know, or no one did have to know.
Right.
Now I don't give a shit. Now I'm at
right.
the point where the biggest gripe that I have with porn right now is that sounds a little judgmental. There is a large group of people in the world that are not getting educated in various different ways.
Yes.
Sexual education is one thing, but education in general, picking up a book and reading, there are so many things that are lost, right? So I'm making all these documentaries that I think are life-changing.
That's awesome.
And but the thing is if you go on my regular Twitter page, there's like 30 followers. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. And I just told Callie the other day, one of my short films was in competition for an Academy Award nomination.
Awesome.
That's how fucking far I've gotten so far.
Wow.
And the next one is going to win. I'm not even like, it's going to win.
Awesome.
But
congratulations, by the way.
thank you.
Yes.
That's like from 2006 up until 2019, working on it with the funds that I get from working a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 6 conventionally in porn.
Yeah.
So I remember at one point I didn't want to talk about it too much, but now I can't knock it. I can't knock the fact that I pay mortgage with my sister, with what porn has paid me.
Exactly.
My lifestyle, granted it's humble, but it's my lifestyle.
Exactly.
So you can't really knock it. And coming back to the whole education thing, right? When you say that sexuality is more open, I absolutely agree with you, but I fear that we are at a point where there's too much and not enough explanation. And I'm hoping that's what I can do with this podcast, but not only that, with the reason why people like this, or the reason why people are into this fetish or that kink, or, like there needs to be an understanding and an explanation and research, to be honest with you, about why people get into certain things.
Right.
I know, and self-exploration is one thing, but the people that are watching, you don't know who they are. You might have explored yourself as much as you can, and you put something up, and other people
Yeah.
are questioning themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, well, wow, look at this, look at that. I just fear that it's oversaturated, and some people might take more than they should. You know, everything is good in moderation.
So something that I would preach all the time is safe sex. And safe sex to me isn't necessarily put a condom on. It's more so educating yourself, educating your partner, making healthy decisions for yourself. And the reason why I say that it's important for me to talk about it is because I'm having sex on camera and I'm like a billboard for sex. So sex doesn't just encompass the intercourse. There's so many different levels to sex. The sex can be spiritual. It can be art. It could be nasty. It can be healing. It could be destructive. Having conversations as a sex performer is sort of my responsibility. It's like if I was a climate control activist, I need to be able to say, well, you know what? This is why this is important. This is why this is important. Well, the billboard that I'm on is sex. So all of these things come into play when we're talking about sex. Yeah, you enjoy what I'm doing on camera, but don't forget, there's other conversations that I've had, other interviews, things I post on my social media, things that I try to make sure I keep at the forefront or make sure we have these conversations. And it happens most when I do this. These are the opportunities where we can have conversations about how powerful sex is and what the consequences or the rewards of sex can be.
See, or irresponsible use of sex to me is, and I've said it before, taking Britney Spears or somebody, or let's Jennifer Lopez, take any one of them, right? Let's take Dua Lipa because I love her and she's the newest one, and I've seen what happens when the American mainstream system grabs this new singer. Actually, Anita is going to happen soon, Brazil, the Brazilian girl.
Okay.
And Doja Cat, right? They dye their hair blonde, and then eventually they take all of their clothes off, and what are they doing? They're selling Pepsi, and they're selling music, and they're selling Coca-Cola, and they're selling stuff with sex.
Yes.
But not necessarily about sex. Yeah. Whereas porn, the reason why, that's another thing, I don't have such a hang up with it, is because we're actually selling the product.
Exactly.
We're selling sex with sex.
Yeah.
So I've always had that problem. I've also always, when you say responsibility, I think that's where I'm at now too. Where before, when I looked at it as just a hobby or just something that's going to get me to where I need to go, I didn't really take responsibility for what I was doing.
Yeah.
Neither did the companies I was working for.
Yeah.
It was just about making money.
Exactly.
That whole idea, that whole, and you get the warnings with this is a fantasy. Make sure you know that this is a fantasy.
Exactly.
That was just put there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't recall seeing in most of the productions that I've been a part of any disclaimer like that.
Really?
The disclaimers I saw was piracy.
Yes.
That's all you get. You don't get anything. Or at least say, if you have questions about safe sex, STI testing and screening, HIV test, if there was a link at the bottom of that, it'd be like, okay, that's more responsible at least.
See, I was accused, and I know accused sounds very, very negative and harsh, but I was always told that I coddle the models. Coddling the models, what? Making them feel comfortable, they're gonna make money for you.
Yeah.
This is how we all live. Right. Like we all get paid. This is a transaction. I don't think it's coddling. I think it's more, hey, let's make them feel comfortable. Right. What are you gonna do? Just slap them on a bed, have them have sex, take their health in their hands at that moment for you.
Yeah.
I've had situations where I've had to talk to people that didn't realize, that conversation about HIV, because you couldn't have that conversation. Right. You couldn't ask somebody.
Right.
Because it was not, I think there was a legality to it too.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask what their status was. So you just put them in a bed, and then they're in the bathroom or in the shower, and then one of them comes up to me and says, hey, I didn't know this person was HIV positive. Right. I'm HIV negative. What am I going to do? Right. I don't want to have those conversations anymore.
Right. I remember Marvin let me select a scene partner, and I was again extremely young, naive, and uneducated. And I came across this one guy. I was on Adam for Adam, like going profile to profile. Oh, he's cute. I want to work with him. So I hit the guy up, and he disclosed his status to me. And in my ignorance, I was like, okay, pass. Mind you, at that time, only porn I was doing was protected sex. But just the idea of it and not being educated, I don't know how it may have affected this guy. I don't know. I mean, I guess at some point he may have gotten comfortable with rejection because of it, but it was like, knowing what I know now, it's like, that was horrible.
Yeah.
On my part, I felt bad. I feel bad and on my part. But just imagine how much a person has to deal with because they decided to disclose. They decided to
Yeah.
be responsible.
Well, see, okay, I'll take 2 notes real quick, but I'll take it back for 1 second to Forbidden Funk.
Okay.
Forbidden Funk Media, which is owned by this guy named BK, who's awesome. Started that one. He had his black hardcore fetish line way back when, 2009, before everybody was doing it, and he did it well. And I always remember him having a safe sex, like the billboard or the advisory for safe sex. And this is a fantasy. This is what, like, STDs and all that stuff. And if that was responsible, Treasure Island, the company that I work for right now, for as dirty and as seedy as everybody thinks Treasure Island is, they're on their game.
Good.
They really are when it comes to that stuff. I don't care about the illusion that happens in California.
Right.
Because it is an illusion. Everything in California that comes out of there, all the porn studios that pretend to be, they're glossed over and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You look at the behind the scenes, and that's the reality of it.
Yes.
All right. And I've heard so many stories at this point. Right. So Treasure Island likes to keep this seedy look. Right. They like to keep this ideal, like, that people that are watching it will love because it's dirty. It's a fantasy. All of it is a fantasy.
Right.
And they are some of the nicest people and most responsible people that I've ever met. And Paul Morris, the guy that started it in 1998. And from my research on him, because I have done research, it was a safe place for people who were HIV positive at the time to have sex with other men who were HIV positive.
Right.
And that was considered dangerous. Giving other people who were neglected or set aside because they had HIV, something that happened to them, he was giving them a safe space to do that. And then eventually just became more than that.
Not to make this a whole HIV topic, which I don't mind if it was, but it's like, why is it that society has always punished people for being positive?
Because it's a sex thing. They consider it dirty. It's a dirty thing. And in reality, I don't think so. A lot of the people that had AIDS in the 80s, okay, yeah, they may have been living free sex and all that stuff. The hippies did it in the 60s.
Exactly.
Right?
I think a big responsibility or a big burden of that responsibility lies on consumers to educate yourself. But I also feel, again, the responsibility on some level does come back to me. What am I putting out there? And again, back then, I didn't even do raw sex. Everything was condom. Now that I'm back in the industry, I am doing it. Like, it's more of a burden to me to make sure I have these conversations, to be able to talk about being sexually responsible, making sure that I'm taking care of myself, that I'm in my best health, and making sure that I'm having conversations with partners. And when I'm doing this, or if I'm, like, with my book, when I go out, that's a big part of the conversation. Because first off, it's Venom the porn star. Oh, we're going to talk about sex. Yeah. We're going to talk about sex. Yeah. And I'm going to slide it in there somewhere. Yeah. It's going to come in there somewhere.
You're going to slide it in, all right.
Sometimes I got to ease it in, but, sometimes it's like wide open.
With that thing, you do have to ease it in. I'd have to be asleep, honestly. Shit. Every time I see it, I'm like, damn, like, I don't know how people do this, but
I shocked myself. I'm not going to lie. I shocked myself.
Oh, yeah. Yesterday.
So yesterday, it looks good on camera. But when it's time to actually do it, I got to build up the courage to say, okay, I know what I got to do today.
You got to commit to that dick.
Oh, yes, you have to. You have to commit to the dick.
That's perfect.
So that joke I made yesterday was something that I shared with my partner. Like, I gotta have my dick. I need my dick. Yeah. Like, if I'm bottoming, I need my dick. If I can't touch it, I must really be loving this dick that I'm getting. If I'm not touching my own, even if I'm not, like, erect, I need to touch it. I need to feel some type of sensation there. Yeah. Like that. I don't know if you noticed. At first, I was holding on. Eventually, I just let go.
Oh yeah. No.
I just let go. Come on.
It was good. So your book, what's the title of your book? And let me just really quickly preface the fact that I usually do read these books when I do interview, and I didn't get a chance to pick it up.
Yeah.
So I will pick it up and I will have you on again and we'll talk more in depth about
Okay.
the book. But
Thank you.
give me a good summary and yeah, just tell me about what people can expect from the book, the title, all that
So,
fun stuff.
The name of the book is A Life of Lust, Memoirs of the Porn Star. And the reason why I titled it A Life of Lust is because I wanted to kind of like tie in the sex and the spirituality and something about the lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, one of the scriptures. But it was more so to show that in my life, sex influenced my life from the beginning. Like there were so many different experiences that I had as a young child that at least created the curiosity to explore myself sexually. Before I realized that I was into guys, I was exploring myself. I was exploring with women or females. And then when I got to the point of, okay, I'm grown, I can do what I want, my arm's not over my shoulder, I kind of like started to explore with touching men. Like we were, it's in the book. Um, there's a friend of mine who we would go out all the time hanging out. We were high school friends. And he came into like this really big settlement,
Mm-hmm.
and I was his best friend. So I mean, he took care of responsibilities at home. He did some stuff for his church, and then he would just go out and splurge. Literally 2 to 5 times a week, we'd be in the mall. We'd be traveling, doing this, doing that, and he did this thing called pocket change. Whatever cash he had in his pocket at the end of the day, he just gave it to me, and I wouldn't count it till I got home. Like, God, he just gave me $500. Oh, an extra $200 here.
Mm.
And then he came out to me. And now I'm exploring, like, okay, I don't know, but I'm willing to try. And that's how I got into, like, really experiencing with men and things like that. That's one of those experiences that I had as a young person. So I want to talk about, in the book, I talk about family, I talk about church, I talk about my sex life, some of my traumas. It really is memoirs. I'm
It's your story.
chronicling these different stories. Some of the stories I spend a lot more time with. Some I give for reference. Others is like, no, I need you guys to really pay attention to this. There is an undertone in my book that talks about fatherhood. I didn't have my father in my life, and for the longest, that's been the biggest yearning for me as a man, to have my father around, build a relationship, and just know that part of my heritage. And the guy that was in the picture, who I thought was my father, he was so absent. He believed, punchline, he's not my dad, but we all believed he was for so long. And the journey I went on as a child up until 31 to get real answers was excruciating. Finding out the truth made it more complicated for me. But I think with all of the stories, I always wonder in like tumultuous times in relationships, what was I missing? Like, did I miss something growing up in my raising and upbringing? And I always attribute it to not having my dad there. And I blamed this man for so long for not wanting to be there for me. And that was my go-to. That was my excuse. But I think there was a point in my life where I learned to take responsibility for myself. And now it's like, okay, I have to be okay with having a father or not. I'm a grown man now. That's no longer a crutch for me. I can't keep running back to that. But that's the undertone. I talk about like the pastors in my life that I thought were father figures. Godfather, who I thought was a father figure. I had a gay father. Met him here in New York working with Marvin. His name is Larry Williams. He's deceased now. He was the closest thing I had to a father. And that's an important thing for me. So despite all of the ups and downs and the entertaining moments, the sad moments in the book, and there's a lot of happy moments, a lot of sexual moments, but under it all, I'm human. And that was one of the big things. And I think that's the thread throughout the entire book. It kind of like starts with that to a point of me becoming a realized man.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the book is about. But along that journey, I'm giving you all these great details, great stories, moments that's going to make you want to punch some people, moments that's going to make you want to pull out the lube.
Yeah. Do you name names?
So I think I've no, not consciously. Like I obviously was conscious about it, but I've only changed like maybe 3 names.
Okay.
And these people actually are good people. They're some of them are, like 2 out of the 3 are heroes to me. Another person is a old partner of mine, where I just changed their names. Other than that, I kept people's names, Interestingly, as I was writing the book, for perspective, I would reach out to whoever I was writing about. So even if we had a knockout fight, listen, so I'm writing this book, and I want to let you know that I'm writing this book so you don't get any surprises, so I don't get any legal surprises down the line. I'm putting this story in here. One of the biggest stories in my book, I'm not going to talk about it, but the person actually gave me his blessings to write. And when I tell you it's early in the book. It includes sex. It includes church. It includes trauma. And he was like, it's your experience. And that's what I make sure in this book. I'm getting perspective, but I'm only giving my experience. Like, this is my experience, and this is what I've learned from that experience, either by way of experiencing it or what this person's intent was that maybe I just didn't understand. Mm-hmm. So sure. That's how I approach the book. And again, those are the stories I want people to take away. Again, grab your loot. Just don't do it on the book.
So when people want to find your book, where do they go? Where's the best place for them to go?
My website, KevynM.com, KEVYN.com. And you can, usually there's a pop-up, and you can follow that link. I also have it available as an ebook through Kindle. So if you want the physical copy, it's directly through me, the Kindle or Amazon version of it. And I always encourage people, go leave a review. Even if you didn't like the book, I want to know what you think. I know that there are experiences in that book that everybody can relate to. You can be a 78-year-old woman. You're going to find something in that book that say, you know what? I remember when I was in that situation. I remember my child lived through that. I mean, come on, coming out to your mom who hasn't had that experience as a gay person, and whether it turned out good or bad, but we all have or the mother who has that gay child. So, there's so many different stories that reaches many different audiences.
So we're gonna have sex with Derek Klein.
Yes.
I gotta tell you, this was fun. This was really, really cool. It's a good introduction.
Yeah,
because I think so that we can do this again.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah. Let's when people want to find Venom, right? You've mentioned the book, but when they want to find you, where do they go? What's the best place?
The best place on a day-to-day, I would be the Twitter.
Okay.
Which is at Kyng_Vynm, and it's spelled a little weird, KYNG_VYNM. I think that's where Venom is most present.
Okay.
For the general public versus subscribe to my OnlyFans, or if you go to my website, it's pretty much branded for Kevin in the book. So you want to go to Twitter for Venom.
Okay. I'm going to do a quick shout out to Demystifying Gay Porn, which is available on every podcast directory. We're available on YouTube, where you can watch this interview happen on video, so you can see Venom move and interact and have a good time. Hopefully, right?
Yeah. Oh no, this has been great. I love this.
Well, I appreciate it. So we are available on every podcast directory. We're available on YouTube. Subscribe, click the like button, the subscribe button, all that fun stuff. Make sure you support us so that we can keep doing this. And again, I got to thank you so much, Venom, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Let's make some porn.
Yes.
Right? Guys, this is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off. Cheers.